Hi everyone, welcome to the visual guide for the Praetorium, the grand finale of the Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn main story questline. Like Castrum, this instance rewards 100 tomes of philosophy, and you'll often find server groups setting up speedruns to farm that Darklight gear. With a dedicated group, a Praetorium run can be as fast as 20 minutes, and as such is currently the fastest way to farm tomes. To avoid any potential spoilers with the cutscenes, I'll focus on how to speedrun the instance, giving tips on what to pull and what to ignore, optimizing your time in here as much as possible. My name is Ms. Tech, and I'll be your dungeon guide. Most speedruns will group with one tank and one healer, maximizing the group's DPS output. All fights in this instance are easily doable with the skeleton crew, so don't be afraid to try a group comp that veers away from the traditional composition. The Praetorium is divided in a number of different levels and rooms, accessed by a number of interactable Magitech terminals. These terminals are the backbone to most speedruns. For the terminals that don't require a key, the trash can be pulled and ignored while you port to the next section of the instance. There are a few sections that require you to kill the trash to acquire the key used to open the terminal. AoE these packs down and move on. The first boss is the Mark II Magitech Colossus. He has a frontal cleave, so make sure no one but the tank is standing in front. He also does a knockback, and you can tank him against the wall to avoid this. You don't see me doing this because the room is tiny, and I wouldn't be able to show you much of anything except the boss's butt if I was up against the wall. The boss will periodically cast Magitech Ray, a targeted AoE effect that players should avoid. Other than that, he's pretty squishy and will go down fairly fast. Once the boss is down, we gain access to the next section. Again, we can avoid most of the trash here. This pack drops the key we need to get to the next section, so AoE it down and open that door. Here we need to authorize ourselves to use the suits of Magitech armor. Take the elevator up and get ready for the fun part. In this section of the instance, we use Magitech armor to clear through. Once you're in the suit, your pet action bar will become active with two new abilities. The first is a targeted ground bomb, and the second is a frontal barrage. We'll use these against the cement bulkhead to gain access to the next section. Here we fight packs of mobs that we probably would have a lot of trouble with without our suits. Arm units will also burst from the wall to attack you, so watch out for those on any suspicious bridge areas. If your suit is destroyed and you get knocked off, there are a number of empty suits throughout this section that you can hop into. However, it's probably faster to just follow the rest of your group, hanging back a bit so you don't pull aggro. We blast through another cement blockhead and get to the second boss, Nero. Yeah, there's no way I'm going to try to pronounce that. Once engaged, Nero will surround the outer edge of the room in a field that will electrocute anyone standing in it. He also punts anyone around him away, so tanks and melee be careful with your positioning here. The easiest way to deal with this is to imagine a square within the lightning circle and tank him at each point, moving to the next point with each punt back. Periodically throughout the fight, adds will spawn that fixate on a certain player, signified by the super obvious purple line. Should these adds reach the player, they will be punted back halfway across the room, most likely right into the lightning field. Damage dealers should switch to these adds as soon as they come up to avoid that excess damage. The boss also has a number of point-blank AoE and frontal cones that should be avoided. There is very little trash in the next few sections of the instance, and right after Nero we begin the next boss encounter, on a moving elevator. Who doesn't love this place? Gaius has a number of abilities that don't have the usual obvious telegraphs, so this fight will require you to keep your eyes open a little more than usual. He has a spicy frontal cleave, so be sure to avoid standing in front. For tanks and melee, the first thing you'll notice is the void zone he places right on top of him, and how he stubbornly refuses to move out of it. This void zone will do bleed damage over time, but doesn't hurt too much and can be healed through while you continue to pump out that DPS. He also casts Hand of the Emperor on a random player, but again this damage is easily healed through. Eventually Gaius will teleport to a random player and attack them. Again, not too much damage. The main thing to look out for on this fight is his cross/arrow shooty thingy ability. Does this ability have a name? If anyone knows, please tell me. Either way, he basically draws an X in front of him that will eventually shoot forward, damaging anyone in its path. If you see this massive glowing X, step out of its way. He will either do this while stationary or will teleport to different sections of the room, shooting off X's wherever he lands. As long as you dodge all of his attacks, you'll be fine. Now that Gaius is down, we need to destroy the Ultima weapon, which, if you followed the storyline so far, spoiler alert, has consumed all three primals. As such, you'll notice that the Ultima weapon borrows a number of abilities from each primal. Since you've learned all of these already, it's just a matter of putting your knowledge into practice. The first new ability you'll notice is the massive green lasers that he'll draw in a line in front of him. After a few seconds, this area will explode and deal massive damage to anyone still standing in that zone. Here you see Ifrit's knockback. Tanking him against the wall will minimize the effect of this. And here you'll notice Garuda's Eye of the Storm. I move him to the inside edge of this to minimize damage, and because I know that I'm going to have to start dancing soon. Here's Geocrush with a Titan cameo. Healers be ready to AoE heal for this. Tanks can keep him against the wall in this phase if they so wish. This is eventually followed by Garuda's Aerial Blast at around 60%. Again, AoE heal through it. Once you see Garuda fall over, you'll notice that you won't have to deal with her abilities anymore. Sub 50%, Titan will begin to alternate cast Ifrits and Titan's plumes. The first set of plumes starts on the outside, followed immediately by the center. Dance in and out of these as necessary, and say bye-bye to Titan once he keels over. At around 25%, you'll notice eruption patterns on the ground, but there's no cast time for this and it cannot be interrupted. As such, players need to move out of these areas as necessary. He'll attempt to trick you one last time with another plume pattern, but you're too smart to fall for his antics. Once all three primal aspects of the Ultima weapon are defeated, you're left to fight just the weapon itself. Again, dodge the green laser zones. Adds will also spawn, shooting lasers in front of them. These are similar to the Mithril Verges in Sunken Temple of Khorne and should be destroyed as they come out so you don't get overwhelmed by the disco show. The next major ability you'll see is the massive airship meteor thing that does unavoidable damage to the room. You'll notice the different colored zone pulsing from the center. The further away you are from the impact, the less damage you'll take. I believe standing in the red zone will one-shot most players, so keep an eye out for that. Another minor ability you might notice is a cast called Tank Purge. I don't know about the other tanks, but anytime I see something like that, I get a little worried. But don't worry, it's just a minimal AoE blast that can easily be healed through. At what looks to be around 5%, the Ultima weapon will teleport to the center of the room and begin casting Ultima. Here's the mini burn phase. The group must destroy the boss before the end of the cast or suffer unforeseen consequences. Once the Ultima weapon is down, we have one last boss, La Habria. He will spawn a number of void zones underneath players. Move out of these as soon as possible. He also does an AoE blast called Shadow Flare, but it does so little damage I didn't even realize he had any real abilities. Not so powerful when all your friends are dead, huh? And there you go, congratulations on completing the main story questline. As always, thanks for watching! Up next, we'll look at the mini-bosses required for the Relic Reborn questline. Till next time!